Today I want to talk to you about toxic masculinity, which defines manhood in very narrow terms. It is a combination of ideas about the way men should behave that are harmful, like the idea that men should not cry or show weakness, the idea that men are just naturally violent, that men can't like flowers, poetry, or the color pink, and the idea that real men should not ask for help. Toxic masculinity serves to foster homophobia, the dominance over women, and violence. It represents the idea that men must act in a certain manner in society because if they don't, they will be perceived as less masculine.
If you cannot control your emotions, you will never ever be as a man.
It leans, of course, on a gender stereotype that there is one way to be masculine, which is tough, strong, big, show no emotion. But it also labels any man who shows traits that are considered feminine as weak. Toxic masculinity can be found everywhere, in the movies, in the media, press, literature, music, education, the language we use.
You know, I'm just not as sensitive as you.
Even in the Disney movies we grew up watching, and our kids might still be watching today. Think about all the content that you have consumed your entire life. From superhero cartoons teaching us that manly men are supposed to be big, tall, rich, and powerful, and use violence to gain respect, to Disney movies that present men that are not manly as losers, weak, and not good enough. Pop music, fashion, and the endless language around the role of a real man. The message to little boys is really clear.
Boys don't cry.
If you want to be respected, you gotta act like a man. And real men, they don't cry. They're not soft. They can't be weak or emotional. They can't say when things are hard or ask for help. They can't be sad, only angry. They can't earn less than their wives or do the housework. And if they like wearing a dress, well then, they must be gay.
Harry Styles wearing a dress in a field?
They ain't manly, bro.
The origins of toxic masculinity began thousands of years ago when physical strength, dominance, and aggression were needed to fight and to hunt. These behaviors continued for centuries, well into contemporary times where they were no longer necessary, yet the attitude is still promoted.
As a man, you're supposed to be scared and not show you're scared.
Seriously, not needed anymore. With feminism, women entering the workforce and taking up more leadership roles in politics and business, some men started feeling threatened, like they were losing their traditional male role. In a way, it's a bit of a male identity crisis, with the big question being, what does it mean to be a man? Well, according to toxic masculinity, it means being a
Toxic masculinity is a term that was invented by women nobody wants to
Anyway, apart from the obvious, which is that toxic masculinity encourages rape culture, homophobia, transphobia, domestic abuse, sexism, and a society that is obsessed with gender stereotypes rather than seeing people as individuals, it is also very damaging for men and boys. Imagine being told, directly or indirectly from an early age, that in order to be a real man, you need to behave in a certain way, that you need to hide certain aspects of your personality. If you don't, then you will be teased and bullied and mocked. Even in 2022, there are still people who tell young boys that if they want to be respected or get laid, what they need to do is act like a man. Only their idea of what a man should act like is very problematic. We're talking pure macho, sexist, chauvinistic pearls of wisdom.
There's times in your life, as a man, you're gonna feel like crying. But what you're supposed to do is not cry.
And the scary thing is that this type of message is presented as help. Many young boys are exposed to it through social media, and it is so damaging. You see, when men are not taught how to be vulnerable, how to embrace other aspects of their personality, and are pressured to be men in that toxic manner rather than simply be human, everybody loses. As a result, there is more domestic violence, more sex-related crimes, more gun crimes, more violence in general, and these boys' mental health will suffer. How? Well, we all have the same problems with depression and anxiety. Men are actually statistically more likely to commit suicide as a result of these problems, and the main reason is that there is a stigma around getting help. Toxic masculinity means that if a man goes to therapy or tries to get help, he's seen as weak. So basically, it teaches boys to suck it up, grow a pair, man up, walk it off, don't be a mama's boy, don't cry like a girl or be a pussy. Basically, shut down, ignore, and deny any part of your personality that is not manly. I don't know about you, but to me, that does not sound good. The truth is that we all have a bit of everything in us. We are all feminine and masculine and everything in between and beyond. We are all capable of feeling an array of emotions, from happiness to sadness, fear, anger, and vulnerability. And while some traits are seen as either feminine or masculine, the bottom line is that they are all traits of all humans. And while through the lens of toxic masculinity, vulnerability, for example, is associated with femininity and with weakness, in truth, accepting that we're all vulnerable leads to emotional awareness, which leads to being more empathetic towards ourselves and others, but more to the point, it takes a lot of guts. In other words, it doesn't take much to talk like a chauvinistic dumbass. Literally any baboon can do it. It is far braver to show your vulnerability. And that's what we need to teach our kids. And listen, men learn from other men. It takes one act of bravery to inspire others. So dare to be vulnerable. And finally, our role as a society is to encourage everyone to explore all aspects of their humanity. And at the same time, shut down sexist voices coming from individuals who are clearly very insecure. Personally, I think moving away from trying to achieve one or the other is probably a good idea. Why not all try to be good humans instead?